Welcome back to this already the final segment of today's Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I tell you, it's your business to really enjoy the time you're not in business. And if you're like one of millions of Americans who suffer from migraine headaches, you're going to find this next topic extremely timely. And next month, June being Migraine Awareness Month, all the more timely. Dr. Brian Loftus is our guest, and he is with Bel Air Neurology. And delighted to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Kind of tell us a little bit about your background and your practice to get this started.
Yeah, I'm a neurologist in private practice, and I specialize in headache care. I'm board certified in neurology as well as in headache medicine. I think what makes us unique is we actually believe that patients should leave our office feeling better than when they came in. So to support this, we have a number of rescue services available, including IV infusions and some nerve blocks and something called SPG block, where patients who see me for the first time or are needing rescue can come into the office and get treated and feel better before they go.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And the thing about I've been reading a lot, particularly in the last year, and I had some struggles with this a few years ago, and they just went away. I guess that occasionally happens where people just stop having problems with this type of thing.
Yeah, everyone outgrows them eventually. Typically, the peak year is about age 40.
Yeah.
So they get worse till age 40, and then they get better, and then women have sort of a second peak around age 50.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not a woman then. But I better watch that. But anyway, I noticed that I've been, I kind of attuned to it because I have friends and people in my life who suffer with migraines still. I've been attuned to the fact that in the last few years in particular, there's been some phenomenal changes, and so a lot of people who are out there using some old techniques that were the best that existed a decade ago probably should really go check a neurologist out.
I think that's true. So we have a half a dozen really great meds for acute migraine now, but I think the big expansion has been the number of preventatives that we have for people who get frequent migraines. I have 7 first-line drugs and 5 procedures that I can do to make migraines less frequent. And so really the emphasis is more on prevention in the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that part of the strategy, which kind of blew my mind, was the use of Botox.
Yeah, so Botox is one of those procedures that
it's one of the newer ones, I assume.
It's been FDA approved for only a few years.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the most expensive things that are done also. So patients every 12 weeks get a series of Botox injections as a preventive for migraine. And like everything else for migraine, it seems to work well about half the time.
About half the time.
About half the time. So half the time it's a great drug. The other half of the time it doesn't work at all, and that's typical of all those drugs that I have for migraine.
So when you say half the time, does that mean they have half as many headaches as they used to have, or half the people have no headaches?
Half the people have half or better.
Oh, that's still good.
Yeah, so some get 90% improvement. That's a relatively small amount. And that drug is used only for people who have headache days for more than half the month. So you may take them from 25 down to 12. Or if they get better than average, from 25 down to 5 or 10. And then the drugs that we use for acute therapy work much better when patients are on prevention as well. So our disability rates can go down by 90%, even if the headache counts just drop by half.
And where do you actually give those shots?
So it's 31 injections. Some are in the forehead, some are in the back of the head and in the neck. It's all around.
Interesting. Wow. And so that's pretty interesting. The thing that blows my mind is how they figure out stuff is going to work in a certain way. It's kind of curious. Yeah.
So the Botox story started with plastic surgeons reporting that women who came in for facial cosmetic work reported that their migraines got better. And that led to sort of a long series of studies over a decade in order to figure out the pattern that we use now that we ultimately got FDA approved.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's more exciting is that people have taken the pattern that we use with Botox and have produced something that's almost the same with much cheaper medications. So for about a quarter to a fifth of the cost, we can do the same blocks with a drug called bupivacaine or lidocaine and achieve almost the same results. So, like I said, that's one of the...
How new is that?
It's really, so people have been doing blocks of one form or another for decades, but this particular pattern came out about 2 years ago by a guy named Dr. Kaneki. So it's new. And even newer than that is a block inside your nose called a sphenopalatine ganglion block, and there's 3 devices on the market for that. And that's like in the last year, and I've done a few hundred of those now. And again, it's just another way to try to get the number of headaches down. And with all these different medications and procedures we have, we can usually help just about, everyone who comes to see us. There are a few, unfortunately, who we still have problems with.
Yeah, no question about it. So what would you say when people get to you, I'm assuming because of how specific you are, in terms of your work, they've already probably gone through other doctors.
Yeah, typically I'm third or fourth in the line.
Third or fourth.
Our practice style is a little
after
bit...
you as a voodoo doctor, right?
I think after me are sort of the generalized pain doctors who mostly use the narcotic drugs. So we're pretty much a narcotic-free approach.
Okay.
And that's because there are drugs that are better than that. And so basically, when they come to see me, I'm out of network with almost all insurances. We believe in sort of the free market approach. We have reasonable prices. So they typically have been not only through their primary care doctor, but also through another neurologist or two before they decide that they want to see us.
So talking about, when people come in and they begin to work a regimen, I'm assuming you start with one drug generally, one approach generally, and see, and you probably, in that one, you probably use for most more patients than others. Is that right?
Yeah. So
kind of tell us how it looks.
I'll take you through it. So basically, almost everybody has headaches more than half the days when they come and see me. We typically put them on an oral preventative. There are 7 first-line agents that all work about the same. Some of them cause weight loss. Some of them cause weight gain. Some of them also treat diseases like depression or high blood pressure, so that helps you choose the drug. They're all cheap, generic drugs that if you're paying cash are $50 a month or less. So they're typically, $3 to $10 a month with your insurance. And then if they're miserable, as most of them are, we'll do one of the preventative procedures also. So we'll kind of give them 2 chances to get well. And the preventatives can start to work the next day, at least the shots and the thing in the nose, and the pills typically take a few weeks. So we try to use those procedures to bridge people onto the meds. And at 4 weeks, if neither thing worked, you go and do the next set until you find something that works well. Occasionally, people are too desperate to even wait the 4 weeks, and we'll do preventatives a few days apart in order to find something that works well. But the oral meds need a month or 2 to work.
And is there more treatments around the corner? I'm assuming they're always developing new things.
There are. So there's a whole group of new class of drugs. So we're really excited. So there's a new class of drug called CGRP drugs that are in phase 3 now for these patients with chronic migraine, which only represents about 10% of the migraine group, but they're the group that's the most disabled group, missing the most work, going to the ERs and spending the most money. So it's a group that still needs help.
Most time, money, energy. Yeah. And that's incredible. And I'm grateful that there's people doing this. I always wonder, I look at Obamacare, which, anyone who listens to my show knows how much affection I have for that. People don't understand. And fortunately, a lot of people in fields like yours are free market driven. And so there's still plenty of people who are going to continue to get help. And so there's still money there for the next innovation. But I tell you, things like Obamacare, 90% of all technology, 90% of all meds were developed in the United States. And that's because of the fact that there was an incentive for that to happen. There's a huge investment return that can happen as a result of that. And so I always worry about that. Do you ever see that having a chilling effect in your area? Because let's face it, that's what undermines that. I was reading an article about the British government sends spies to our hospitals in order to get technology and innovation that they can't develop themselves because they don't have a market to do it.
So for migraine, since there's no malpractice risk and the more money or the better care you give, the more it costs, I think it will do very poorly under either Obamacare or ACO structures.
Yeah.
Because they see treating migraine patients as a money loser versus seeing people getting better and getting back to work. So companies should see it as a great investment, but unfortunately the way the insurances are setting up, it's not good.
Brian Loftus has been our guest. He's a doctor of neurology, and his practice is called Bel Air Neurology. The website is Bellaire, BELLAIRE, neurology.com. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And remember, June is Migraine Awareness Month. We've got loved ones who suffer from those terrible situations. You might want to encourage them, especially if they haven't gone to a doctor in quite a while, check it out because this is an incredibly innovative field, and there's no reason to suffer. All right. Thanks, sir. When we come back tomorrow, much more for you. I do want to remind you the best content here does show up over there at usdatareview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.